Jaya Radha Madhavam Jaya Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Yashodanandana Jaya Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Shri Radha Madhava ki, Gaura Premanande. Hare Krishna, and welcome to this morning's Bhagavatam class. I am not at all qualified to be sitting in front of you today to deliver this class, but with your blessings, Maharaj, and devotees, please bless me so that I can say something that is beneficial to your hearts. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we are continuing our reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 23, text number 18. Tam Sarva Guna Vinasyam Jive Mayamaye Nyadyat Tvam Cha Anusyam Atmastam Aso Anusyayi Pumam Jnana Vairagya Viryena Swarupastaha Ajahat Prabhu Tam Sarvaguna Vinasyaham Jive Maya Mayen Yadat Tam Chanusham Atmastam Asam Anusyayam Pumam Jnana Vairagya Viryena Swarupasto Jahat Prabhu. Devotees. Tam Sarvaguna Vinasyam Swarupasta Jahat Prabhu Tam Sarvaguna Vinasyam Jiva Maye Maye Nyada Tam Samnusyam Atmastam Ashman Jnana Vairagya Viryena Swarupasta Jahat Prabhu Tam Sarvaguna Vinashasam Jiva Maye Maye Nyadat Tam Chanusyaham Atmastam Asanam Bhavsampunam Jnana Vairagya Viryena Swarupasto Achat Prabhu. Vaishnavis. Tam Sarvaguna Vinasyasam Jiva Maya Maye Nyadat Tam Chanusyam Atmastam Asava Nusyahit Pumam Jnana Vairagya Viryena Swarupasto Jajat Prabhu. Anyone else? Word for word. Tam, unto him, Sarva Guna Vinasya Sam, the reservoir of all qualities. Jive, unto the designations. Maya, Maya Maye, the reservoir of all potencies. Nyadat, placed. Tam, that. Cha, also. Anusyaham, designation. Atmastaham, situated in self-realization. Aso, he. Anusya, he, the living entity. Pumam, the enjoyer. Jnana, knowledge. Vairagya, renunciation. Viryena, the prowess of. Swarupastha, being situated in one's constitutional position. Ajahad, returned home. Prabhu, the controller. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Prithu Maharaj then offered the total designation of the living entity unto the supreme controller of illusionary energy. Being released from all designations by which the living entity became entrapped, he became free by knowledge and renunciation and by the spiritual force of his devotional service. In this way, being situated in his original constitutional position of Krishna consciousness, he gave up this body as a Prabhu, or controller of the senses. Kindly repeat after me. Prithu Maharaj then offered the total designation of the living entity unto the supreme controller of illusionary energy. Being released from all the designations by which the living entity became entrapped, he became free by knowledge and renunciation, and by the spiritual force of his devotional service. In this way, being situated in his original constitutional position of Krishna consciousness, he gave up this body as a Prabhu, or controller of the senses. Srila Prabhupada's purport. As stated in the Vedas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the source of material energy. Consequently, he is sometimes called Maya Maya, or the Supreme Person, who can create his pastimes through his potency, known as the material energy. The jiva, or the individual living entity, becomes entrapped by the material energy, by the supreme will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita 1861, we understand Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshta Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayana Sarva Bhutani Yantra Dronadi Mayaya. Ishvara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is situated within the hearts of all conditioned souls. And by his supreme will, the living entity or the individual soul gets the facility to lord it over material nature in various types of bodies, which are known as yantra, or the moving vehicle offered by the total material energy, Maya. Although the individual living entity, Jiva, and the Lord are both situated within the material energy, the Lord is directing the movements of the jiva, or the soul, by offering him different types of bodies through the material energy. And thus the living entity is wandering throughout the universe in various forms of body and becomes implicated in different situations, partaking of the reactions of fruitive activities. When Prithu Maharaj became spiritually powerful by the enhancement of spiritual knowledge, Gyan, and renunciation of material desires, he became a Prabhu, or master of his senses, sometimes called Goswami or Swami. This means that he was no longer controlled by the influence of material nature. When one is strong enough to give up the influence of material nature, he is called Prabhu. In this verse, the word Swarupastha is also very significant. The real identity of the individual soul lies in the understanding or attaining the knowledge that he is eternally a servant of Krishna. This understanding is called Swarupa Palabdhi. By cultivating devotional service, the devotee gradually comes to understand his actual relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This understanding of one's pure spiritual position is called Swarupa Palabdhi. But when one attains the stage, he can understand how he is related with the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a servant or friend, or parent or conjugal lover. This stage of understanding is called Swarupa Staha. Prithu Maharaj realized the Swarup completely, and it will be clear in the later verses that he personally left this world or this body by riding on a chariot sent from Vaikuntha. In this verse, the word Prabhu is also significant. As stated before, when one is completely self-realized and acts according to that position, he can be called Prabhu. The spiritual master is addressed as Prabhupada because he is completely a self-realized soul. The word Pada means position, and Prabhupada indicates that he is given the position of Prabhu, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he acts on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless one is a Prabhu or controller of the senses, he cannot act as a spiritual master who is authorized by the Supreme Prabhu or Lord Krishna. In this verse, praising the spiritual master, Srila Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur writes, Shaksha Dadaitena Samasa Sastre Yuktas Tatatva Bhayavat Sabdi. The spiritual master is honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. Thus, Prithu Maharaj can be called Prabhupada, or as described herein, Prabhu. Another question may be raised in this connection. Since Prithu Maharaj was a power incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shakta Avesh Avatar, why did he have to execute the regulative principles in order to become a Prabhu? Because he appeared on this earth as an ideal king, and because it is the duty of a king to instruct the citizens in the execution of devotional service, he followed all regulative principles of devotional service in order to teach others. Similarly, Caitanya Mahaprabhu, although Krishna himself, taught us to approach Krishna as a devotee. It is said, Apana Achari Bhakti Shikai Aino Shabare. Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu instructed others in the process of devotional service by setting the example himself through his own personal actions. Similarly, Prithu Maharaj, although a Shaktavesh avatar incarnation, still behaved exactly as a devotee in order to achieve the position of Prabhu. Furthermore, Swarupastaha means complete liberation. As it said in Bhagavatam 2.10.6, Hitvanyata rupam swarupena vayastitahi. When a living entity abandons the activities of Maya and attains the position from which he can execute devotional service, his state is called Swarupastaha, or complete liberation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swaha Padantikam Ye Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavnebeyo Vaishnabeyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasaya Bhutale, Srimati Kadamakanana, Swami Te Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharyane, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi, Vaskachade Shatarine. So devotees, we've arrived at the sacred moment in the Srimad Bhagavatam, here at this fourth canto, where we hearing of King Prithu Maharaj's departure. But before we go into the verse, we need to understand how we got here. Maharaj Anga was a good ruler, and he couldn't beget a son. But at the same time, he received some benediction, a benediction that he would get a son. And because he performed this type of sacrifice, Maharaj Anga and his wife, who was a descendant of Yamaraj, death personified, receives a son. But the son, as you may expect, wasn't the best of all sons. King Vena, or Prince Vena at that time, he was born of bad association, and he became corrupt, he became atheistic and tyrannical. And it said that it was so bad that during his schooling days of Prince Vena or King Vena, it said that during this time, Vena was so cruel, he was just killing people. He was just killing people for no reason. And the analogy is given just like how sometimes in the schoolyard one dissects and plays with kills different types of insects. This is what Vena was doing. So Maharaj Anga, he tried in various ways to reform his child. And you know how it is. You try and try and try, and eventually you just give up. There's nothing you can do. But it said that better to have a bad son than to have a good son. Because a bad son will remind you of your duty of being Krishna conscious, your duty of remembering Krishna. Because now you're in such a situation, you tried all sorts of things to reform your son. Basically, you're pulling out your hair, there's no more gray hair left anymore, it's all gone, and you tried everything, it never worked. So what did King Anga do? He just simply left. He left his entire kingdom. He just walked away. With all of that power, with all of that good fortune that he had, he simply just walked away. and he left his entire kingdom. But being so concerned, what happened? The sages came together. And the sages came together and were thinking that if we do not do something of the situation, we do not have the king anymore, we do not have a monarch anymore, if this happens, the entire planet will just go into ruin. Everyone will plunder different types of riches from the planet. There will be a drought, there'll be famine, all these different things will go through the planet. How will we survive? So we should install a king. The king's council, they knew of Vana's his character, and they were thinking, no, we should get somebody else. But the sages, being Brahmanical, they stepped forward and they were willing to take a chance. Now this is not the first time we're hearing in Bhagavatam that the sages come across to rescue a situation. But what happens is that a devotee, when one becomes Krishna conscious, one's heart is slowly being transformed to its original constitutional position. It's being transformed through this process of bhakti yoga. And not only are you being transformed, but you are trying to see the welfare of the world. And you want to try to do something for the welfare of the world. That yes, I am being satisfied in my own Krishna consciousness. I'm going deeper and deeper in my own spiritual life. But at the same time, the world is struggling for a lack of Krishna consciousness. And what can I do to give them a little bit of Krishna consciousness? Let me try to give them a little bit of prasadam. Let me try to give them a little bit of this philosophy. Let me try to go out on the streets and give them the holy name so they can also benefit. For them getting this little bit of mercy, maybe their spiritual lives can continue. So this is what sadhus think. They take the suffering of other living entities, they take the suffering as their very own. Because they are not selfish. Now your heart is becoming a heart of full compassion. So this is what the sages were thinking, that we have to do something about this. And when they tried to do something about this, they gave Vana a chance. They gave him a chance and they made him king. But boy, was it the wrong decision. Because basically everything was just ruined. The entire planet was just ruined. And that they came back and they thought, it's enough now. We cannot tolerate anymore. The planet is suffering. Our citizens are suffering. What should we do? They prayed and eventually they killed Vana with mantras. So there lies his body, and they thought that no, we really need a king again. So from that demoniac body, they started, first of all, the mother of Vana, she tried reviving the body through mantra and medicine, and she tried keeping it alive before the soul leaves. So the body was a little bit conscious still. So with this, they tried reviving through mantras. They tried reviving from Vana's body a living entity. Very scientific, but they got it, that a demon was actually born from the demoniac side of his body. But through chanting more and more mantras, they got this totally purified, and there arrives the Shakta Avesh avatar of Prithu Maharaj and his wife Archie. And they go about trying to restore the earth again. I remember when we used to do traveling Sankirtan up in the Pumbulanga side, one marathon, we were just listening to this class from Indradumna Maharaj. Every single morning, it's just playing in the car. And he was speaking of how beautiful this earth can be. He was describing Maharaj Prithu, he was describing Yudhishthira Maharaj, that when a king is fully Krishna conscious, not only does he benefit, but the entire kingdom benefits. That there was no shortage of grain. There was ample supply of food and medicine. And you didn't even need medicine because there was no such thing as disease. There was no such thing as disease. Everyone was just fully satisfied that they could perform their duty, and at the same time, they could become more and more spiritual. They can become more and more Krishna conscious. So this was what always was, as a young bhakta, it would always amaze me, like, wow, this can really happen. And we think, yes, it can happen. If we just go out and distribute these books, the world can change. And we know it can because of Srila Prabhupada's potency and Srila Prabhupada's words. The world can change. So this is where Prithu Maharaj, he basically recovers the planet. It's all fully functional once again. Everyone is becoming spiritual and Krishna conscious. And then, like a noble man, a noble king, he divides the planet and he gives it to his various children, and then he retires to the forest. All that wealth, all that power, just leaves it at Krishna's feet, leaves it at his children's feet. And he simply retires into the forest. And here, his wife Archie Devi and him, they go into the forest, and so nicely explained by Prabhupada how necessary this is. Because ultimately, the goal of human life is to remember Krishna. The goal of human life is to become more and more Krishna conscious. If one is continuing on with one's duty or one's work, one is sometimes distracted with family, with work, and in this way, he totally surrenders all of this. Srila Prabhupada explains that yes, nowadays you cannot go into the forest, but you can come to one of our temples. You can come to one of our temples, and there, this is also called retirement. Because our retirement policy is something out of this world. Our retirement policy is something out of this world because we're working for something that takes us back home to Godhead, way beyond this life. So Prithu Maharaj, as the Shakti avatar, he's sitting in the forest, totally only eating fruits and roots and sometimes dry leaves. Then he's fully meditating, and that we heard yesterday of how he's preparing to leave his body. So we pick it up here from today's verse of how he leaves his body as a Prabhu. He leaves this body as a Prabhu. And Prabhupada translates this Prabhu as one who controls his mind and senses. When one can control his mind and senses, then one is called Prabhu. But as here in this Hare Krishna movement, this Prabhu, sometimes it's used loosely, right? There's this social media meme that goes around, It says, "Hey Prabhu!" It's "Hey Prabhu!" It's sometimes used so loosely. But it has such deeper meaning. And there's actually a letter that Srila Prabhupada writes, which I'll kindly read to you, about the word Prabhu. And Prabhupada is saying that we should be addressing everyone as Prabhu, everyone as boss. This is what it means. It means Lord. So Prabhupada is saying, I'm very sorry that he has assumed such an air of importance. We should always remember that we are on the path of perfection, but we are not perfect. If he or anyone thinks that he has attained perfection, he be wrongly directed. I have asked you all to address your God brothers as Prabhu. This Prabhu means boss. If everyone thinks of his fellow workers as boss, then there is no question of misunderstanding. The mistake is being addressed as boss or Prabhu. One thinks himself as exactly Prabhu or the boss. One should not forget himself as a humble servant, even though he is addressed as Prabhu. The spiritual master is offered respect as respects are offered to the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, if the spiritual master thinks that he has become the Supreme Lord, then he is doomed. As a bona fide spiritual master, always thinks of himself as a servant of the Lord. One should never forget to be humble in dealings. If every one of us would conduct our business in the spirit of Prabhu and a servant, then there is a little chance of being misunderstood. Sometimes misunderstandings may take place, but it should be adjusted in the spirit of service attitude to Prabhu. This is a letter to Nandarani on the 28th of November, 1967. So, think about the brilliance. In our Vaishnava culture, we call each other Prabhu. Now, Srila Prabhupada is establishing a worldwide movement. He's establishing it, and our anniversary is coming up on this Saturday. From 1966, he's establishing this worldwide movement where he's coming into a place where no one understands this culture. No one understands what Krishna even means. But they are just solely going on Prabhupada's word and a little bit of faith they have in this Swamiji. And Swamiji comes and he addresses everyone as Prabhu, Lord. Think about the brilliance of it, of coming in and you starting a worldwide movement and you start calling each other boss, the Lord, boss. But And think about it, that we are coming into this material world, as Prabhupada is describing in this purport, that we are going through so many different types of bodies. Finally, we get the human form of life. Finally, from the human form of life, we dive deeper and we want to become spiritual because we're finding our purpose of who we are, what is our relationship to God. We're finding the purpose. Coming in this material world, and we are saying we are the lords of material nature. That's what got us into trouble in the first place. That we want to lord it over our senses, lord it over everything that we come across. Just to show that we are the boss. Then you come into the spiritual society, and in the spiritual society, you think it's the complete opposite, but you walk around and everyone calls you Prabhu. It's so interesting that everyone calls you Prabhu, but now there's a little difference. Because we have a little bit of realization and we have a little bit of intelligence now to say that no, he's addressing me as Prabhu, but actually I am the servant of the servant of the servant. And this is what Prabhupada did. He treated everyone as so much respect. The founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is calling Bhakta so-and-so and Bhakta that from the streets of New York, Prabhu. I remember one time I got caught out with this, that we had His Grace Shamlal Prabhu, Prabhupada's disciple, giving the Sunday talk here. And Shamlal Prabhu was everyone's friend, right? We were very familiar with Shamlal Prabhu and we would joke with him and we would laugh with him, etc. But he would correct us whenever we went wrong. So I'm introducing Shamlal Prabhu and I'm saying that, today we have Shamlal, and Shamlal he does this and this for our movement, and Shamlal collected so much money for our beautiful temple here, and Shamlal did this, and he stopped me right there. He looked at me and he said, actually, we should say Shamlal Prabhu. And he said it in a very humble way because he said, this is how Prabhupada addressed us. Prabhupada addressed us as Prabhu. So sometimes we get familiar with people, sometimes we get familiar with in our dealings as well, but we should always be very cautious of this point, that I am the humble servant and this is Prabhu. This is Prabhu. So we should always bear that in mind, that no matter how deep our relationship goes, we should always try to be respectful, because it reminds us of our eternal constitutional position of being a servant of the servant of the servant. But those that where all the other lords, where all the other masters sit at the feet of that Prabhu is called Prabhupada. The one where all other masters are sitting. And this also, Prabhupada came in and everyone was calling him Prabhupada in the early days. They were calling him Prabhupada Swami Ji. And Prabhupada then, after a few years, he spoke to Govinda Dasi, and when she called him Swami Ji, said that this term Ji, J-I, this term Ji is all very low class, he said. It's third class, Prabhupada said. So Govinda Dasi said, what should we address you as? Srimad Bhagavatam describes that once you can address the spiritual master as Vishnupad or Prabhupada. So Prabhupada said, you can call me Prabhupada. And this is how this name Prabhupada just got more and more famous. This name Prabhupada was being called by his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada. It was being called by Rupa Goswami, Prabhupada. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself had this title, Prabhupada. And sometimes Lord Nityananda and Advaita Acharya, who are all Vishnu Tattva. But at the same time, sometimes Lord Nityananda and Advaita Acharya also addressed as Prabhu. But this is the title, Prabhupada, the one where all other masters sit. And for us in this Hare Krishna movement, Prabhupada means a whole lot more. Because Prabhupada came when he didn't have to come. Just like the sages of Naimisharanya, they saw the effects of Kali Yuga progressing. And then what did they do? They had this big sacrifice. They called Sutta Goswami, and they started inquiring, how can we make things better? Started inquiring about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his activities. Just like the sages, when Maharaj Anga just left his kingdom, they were also concerned. And like this, Prabhupada, following in this disciplic succession, had the same concern of this planet. All it's described is that we need the tip of a toe of a pure devotee to touch the planet, and the entire kingdom, the entire world simply changes. And this is what Prabhupada did. He came and he started the spiritual revolution, a spiritual revolution of consciousness. And it was not ordinary. There's this paper of Vyasa Puja offering by His Holiness Tamal Krishna Das Goswami, who says that it's entitled, Paramahamsa Thakur. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, after studying the Caitanya Charitamrita, after teaching this Caitanya Charitamrita, after being in such close contact with Srila Prabhupada, goes and he writes this beautiful paper. It's on board the Jaladuta. And while being on the Jaladuta, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there and Lord Nityananda is there. And he's describing all these acharyas of Baladev Vidya Bhushan, Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur, Jagannath Das Babaji, Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Bhakti Siddhanta Bhakti Vinay Thakur. He's explaining this assembly that's situated around Srila Prabhupada. And he's addressing Prabhupada as the disciple of Bhakti Siddhanta. And all of them are starting to give blessings. The Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur says, you may be blessed that you may write about the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the pastimes of Lord Krishna from the 10th canto. You write about that. Baladev Vidya Bhushan comes and he says, you may write about this commentary of the Bhagavad Gita, but at the same time, you will have Krishna next to you, just like how I had Krishna next to me, dictating to you, and you are simply transcribing. He speaks to Bhaktivinoda Thakur of how this prophecy of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra will be going all around the world by the servant of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur to every town and village of all different castes of Russians, Bengalis, all coming together and chanting this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Then he gets the benediction from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And finally, he gets this benediction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. And it all culminates with a big Sankirtan right there on the Jalad Duta. Prabhupada was bold enough to take voyage on this cargo ship. And then he steps foot on Boston Harbor and later makes his way to New York. Downtown New York. Prabhupada, the one where all other masters sit. This Prabhupada came to Skid Row of New York to try to establish a worldwide movement. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj tells that he is not coming alone, he is coming with this entire parampara right behind him, empowering him to give this Krishna consciousness out. This is what sages do. Sages see the suffering of other living entities. They see it as their very own. What are we going to do to give out Krishna consciousness? What are we going to do to save this soul? So this is this transcendental movement, this transcendental mission that that Srila Prabhupada is carrying with him. The mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to spread Krishna consciousness throughout this world. There's this story by Bhavananda Prabhu gives the story of how Srila Prabhupada didn't want to come into this world. He didn't want to come to this world, and Prabhupada tells him that I did not want to come here. This material world is a horrible place. Horrible. Horrible place. Krishna came to me and Krishna said, go to this material world and give out Krishna consciousness. And I told Krishna, no. No. Then he said, Krishna came back and Krishna said, go to this material world and simply translate these books into the common language. And Prabhupada said, Krishna forced my hand. He forced my hand and I came. It was such a struggle in the beginning. It was such a struggle in 65 that he didn't know where to turn or where to go. It was cold. He didn't know what to do. But Prabhupada was looking at the ships going back and forth. When was the next ship to India? He was thinking maybe he should go back. But being empowered, the empowered Acharya, he had this duty to his spiritual master. He had this duty to the spiritual master that he wants to fulfill this instruction. Others have come to England and Germany and they didn't succeed. But Prabhupada was so determined. He was so determined coming to the Lower East Side. They said that New York is divided into different sections. A is for okay. B is bad. C, I can't remember C. Anyway, C is C. D is dead. And E is throwing your dead body into the East Side River. A, B, C, D, E. And this is where Prabhupada was in the E sections of New York City. And yet he was able, by his pure transcendental mercy, able to transform so many people's hearts. So many people's hearts. And Krishna also sent so many devotees just to assist him for his mission. He sent Brahmananda Prabhu. Brahmananda Prabhu took Srila Prabhupada to be his own father, and they had that father-son relationship. One time Brahmananda Prabhu was giving class in Vrindavan, and somebody asked the question, you were saying that Srila Prabhupada is as good as God? He tried to say as good as God, but because of his Spanish, it didn't come out. It came out, you are trying to say the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, is God? He said, no. I made that mistake once already. Where I said Srila Prabhupada is God. I made a mistake. I do apologize for that. But nowadays I'm getting to realize that it's a little bit different. That Srila Prabhupada is not God. Srila Prabhupada is better. Because God didn't come to the Lower East Side to save me. Srila Prabhupada came. Srila Prabhupada came. So this is Prabhupada's mercy. He came to the Lower East Side, and from there, this whole revolution of the Krishna consciousness movement spreads across the world. To San Francisco, to London, and it just goes like wildfire. And here we are sitting here today in Durban, 50 years later, that since Prabhupada touched these lotus feet on these shores. And this is the mercy we got, that so many devotees, just look at the stats behind me. This is just from one temple. What about all the other centers across the country? So many devotees came, so many programs, so many artis, so many books distributed. So much came just because of Srila Prabhupada's potency and empowering others to take this bold step to give our Krishna consciousness. We are serving at that lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. It's because of him we are trying to repay our debt. We cannot be sitting here today, devotees, thinking, oh, it's so nice. I had such a wonderful morning program. I chanted my 16 rounds before Darshan Arti. I worshipped Srila Prabhupada. I just heard the class of Prithu Maharaj retiring, leaving his body, going back home to the spiritual world. Jai, I'm fully satisfied. We cannot be fully satisfied because we still have Srila Prabhupada's mission. There are so many, the last time I checked was 3.5 million people staying in the Tukwani area. We only distributed from 1985 1.7 million books. What about the other half? There's still so much to do. So we cannot be satisfied soaking up all the darshan. Yes, we soak it up to charge ourselves. We take this holy name to charge up ourselves. We take the association to get a little bit purified. But we cannot be satisfied. We need to have our own Jaladuta moment. In some way or the other, we also need to go out and give our Krishna consciousness. Oh, but Prabhu, I'm so shy, I cannot do it. Then do something to support the movement. But everyone can do it. We just have to show the world that yes, this Krishna consciousness is transforming us. We just have to show this world that yes, it is changing. It changed our lives. But the person we came into the first time into these doors and the person we are now has changed. You have become different. You have become a little more purified. You have become a little more conscious. So if we really want to do something to please Srila Prabhupada, then we have to give out this mercy. We have to be part of this mission of trying to give out something. Give out a little bit of prasadam. Give a book here and there. Give the holy name somewhere. Or just simply smile. But give out Krishna consciousness. We have to. It is our duty. Because the world is still not conquered. Prabhupada, Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu left a little for us to do as well. Prabhupada actually says that you just go about doing this. He said, the glory is already there. The glory is already there. We will be victorious. So why not just be part of it and take some credit? Why not just take some credit? Because it is already there. So this is what we can contemplate. How can we change this? Watching or reading this this narration now of King Venu, the Prithu Maharaj as well, we can see that within us, we don't have to be ruling a kingdom. Within us, all of us are little leaders. Leaders of the ashram, leaders of our families, leaders at work. So we are leading something. So we need to be setting that example And by setting that example, creating this vision of being part of Prabhupada's vision of spreading Krishna consciousness throughout the world. And if we can't do that, at least try to spread Krishna consciousness in your own heart and become fully absorbed in this process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Any questions, comments or corrections, Maharaj?
Thank you, Prabhu. So there is not no question, no correction. So just I remembering discussion of Prabhu in two angles. But Srila Prabhupada actually trying to teach us by uttering Prabhu to another person, we understand our own self, that we are our position, Jiva Swarupa Krishna Nitya Das. And same time also that person who is in front of us, he is much more superior and also he is free from all the, like here in this verse mentioned. And second thing Srila Prabhupada mentioned regarding his Prabhupada, I think this fourth canto, when Prabhupada translating, that time there was a big confusion in Gaudiya Math. So they were complaining about Srila Prabhupada. So why Prabhupada has taken that title as Prabhupada, this is only meant for Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. That's why Srila Prabhupada clarified in this purport that they should understand that what is the real meaning of Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhu.
Anything else, devotees? Ananta Shesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. At the beginning of the class, you said that King Verna is the grandson of Yamaraj, but that's not the case. King Verna is the grandson of Bharatyu, who is a servant of Yamaraj. Yeah. Sometimes there's a confusion between who is who.
It said descendant here.
Yeah, 421:30.
Yeah, thank you. And ultimately all of these devotees are coming from the line of Dhruva Maharaj.
Yeah, everyone's in the line of Dhruva Maharaj, and it's going to continue to the Prachetas and so on. And we'll hear more about the end of Dhruva Maharaj's line in the next canto.
That's correct. Rukmini?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I was thinking about King Anga and how he walks away, and then how Prithu Maharaj and Archie walk away. The two different types of renunciation, because they both do it in two different moods. And with King Anga, it seems fueled with like lots of pain and suffering and maybe even some escapism. But and then with Prithu and Archie, it's done with a lot of like realization and joy, and everything set the field ripe. Is both situations considered equal in their renunciation?
you renounce, it's only one type of renunciation, that you're just leaving things behind. So, yeah, sometimes we forced in different circumstances to renounce, and this is what King Anga did, right? He had to renounce because of his son. He just couldn't tolerate it anymore, so he just left everything. And on the other hand, we have Maharaj Prithu, who renounces willingly. That yes, I've accomplished everything, I've saved the situation now, I have a succession plan as well for my children, where I'm dividing the kingdom to my children, and now I'm peacefully going. So if you don't do that, if you don't renounce when it's time to renounce, when it's time to renounce, then you get a situation where Krishna forces you. Then, yeah. So this was forced upon the Maharaj Anga, that he had to go, because this is the situation. So better to have a bad son than a good son. That statement there.
Hare Krishna. Yes, the idea of equality makes sense to me. So calling somebody Prabhu feels less natural. So what I do is I call people sadhu, or saintly person. What advice can you give for a person like me with this situation and trying to transition to the practice of calling people Prabhu? I know you said Prabhupada said it should be like that, but I don't think I'm that type of person that can do things artificially in this regard.
Yeah, no need to do it artificially. But it is, you're calling them a sadhu, which is also good, which they are as well, so that's fine. Sometimes you may evolve and call them Prabhu, Lord. And sometimes we address each other as Swamis as well, right? But it's showing that we are just their servants.
Hare Krishna, Vibhu, Hare Krishna. So there are many factors that are involved in spreading Krishna consciousness and actually being successful in teaching. I can think of the Lord's mercy is required, a devotee's compassion, being consistent with our service. But then we in
table, no, just the table.
another time in Kali Yuga where we are now, we become so insensitive to people that are struggling. So we go out to preach, we distribute books, we distribute the holy names, but for us sometimes it ends there. And say maybe you see a street person, someone that lives in the streets, or a poor person. It doesn't really hit, until it happens to someone maybe really, really close to you or to you. So how do we not really program ourselves, or how do we dig in deep to get that compassion, to really want to give Krishna consciousness because we know what it did for us. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, you are. So the best thing is that in order to feel that compassion, we need to become Krishna. Also need to become more Krishna conscious. Dive deeper and deeper. Because as you dive deeper, then there's the more of an urgency that, hey, I have to do something. Do something. Because you start saying, start remembering, seeing that, yes, everyone has the super soul within them, and everyone deserves this chance as well. So that's what we have to try to cultivate and develop. Because when we first came into the movement, it wasn't we weren't so enthusiastic, right? To become Krishna conscious. We were just enthusiastic about the process, and then gradually the association and trying to understand Srila Prabhupada's books, trying to understand what it means to be in this movement. Then we graduated from that. We evolved a little to say, hey, I also want to try it out, in some way to distribute this mercy. So that's it.
The main factor in us being able to influence others? I know Krishna's.
No,
hand
I wouldn't
is
say
there.
purity. I would say determination.
Determination. Okay.
Because purity will come naturally, but to be more determined and enthusiastic to do something.
But then Srila Prabhupada says purity is the force.
Prabhupada never said that.
How does that purity is the
Prabhupada
force?
never said. It was from a Chinese proverb book, which some devotee came and read out to Prabhupada. And purity is the force, utility is the principle, preaching is the essence. And Prabhupada said,
So that's not Prabhupada's statement.
So Prabhupada said,
Okay.
But it's so nice, we use it.
Well, I didn't know. I thought it's Prabhupada's statement, but okay. So purity is not the main thing. Determination is.
It comes naturally.
Thanks, Prabhupada.
Ultimately, devotees, we are now the second and third generation from Srila Prabhupada's lineage, and it's up to us to also become Prabhupada men and women. And how do we become Prabhupada men and women? We become Prabhupada men and women by studying Srila Prabhupada's books, taking it very, very seriously. And by doing that, we can also become Prabhupada men and women, so we can also get this burden of responsibility to take Krishna consciousness everywhere. Okay, is that it? I had, quickly, before we conclude, this, I'll do it in 2 minutes or 1 minute, the different characteristics of leadership styles with King Vena and then Maharaj Prithu as well. So from a birth context, King Vena was born from King Anga and Sunita, daughter of Death personified. His birth was inauspicious, caused by bad association. Maharaj Prithu, on the other hand, emerged from the churning of the Vena's body by the sages. Is it mic on or off? Okay. Birth was divinely arranged, Shakta Vesh Avatar, an empowered incarnation. In terms of character, King Vena was arrogant, atheistic, cruel. He banned all Vedic sacrifice and dedicated himself to God. On the other side, Maharaj Prithu was humble, dharmic, spiritually enlightened, and saw himself as a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In relationship to Dharma, King Vena was opposed to Dharma. He dismantled religious institutions. And Maharaj Prithu, he restored Dharma. He re-established Vedic sacrifice, ensured the prosperity of citizens and nature. Towards attitude towards subjects, he was like a tyrant. He ruled throughout fear and control. Maharaj Prithu, on the other hand, was protective, ruled through service, compassion, and wisdom. In terms of how the reaction of the sages, they cursed him and killed him for his irreligion. And Maharaj Prithu, they invoked him to restore balance and supported his righteous rule. In terms of spiritual legacy, Maharaj Vena, he was a symbol of corrupt leadership and egoistic control. And Prithu Maharaj, he was a symbol of ideal leadership, rooted in bhakti, humility, and surrender. With regards to their death or departure, he was killed by mantras by the sages. And Prithu Maharaj, he left the world consciously as Prabhu, completely surrendered to the Lord. And the symbolism of Maharaj Vena was a materialistic leader corrupted by pride. And Maharaj Prithu, he was a spiritually awakened leader, a model for divine kingship. Kandaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Thank you, devotees. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Jai. Gaura Pramanande.